Let's dive into the case. Starting at the beginning of the timeline, the night before the attack. So it's May 30th, 2014. 3 sixth grade girls in Wisconsin are having what looks from the outside like a completely normal sleepover. Just kids, just friends, just a birthday celebration. The girls are Morgan Geyser, who's turning 12, Anissa Weir, also 12, and their classmate and friend, Peyton Lettner. Morgan Geyser was known among classmates as imaginative, quirky, and sometimes socially detached, the kind of kid who lived in her own world. But behind that, Morgan was struggling in ways no one around her fully understood. By the time she was 12, she had begun showing signs of serious mental illness that went unnoticed until after the crime. Later evaluations diagnosed her with early onset schizophrenia, with hallucinations, delusional thinking, and a fragile sense of reality that had already taken root by the time of the stabbing. Morgan wasn't just fascinated with the Slenderman stories. She believed in it, fully, deeply. To her, Slenderman wasn't a story on the internet. He was a presence, someone who watched her, someone she needed to appease. And when she was paired with a friend as suggestible as Anissa and as trusting as Peyton, that delusional system grew into something catastrophic. Anissa Weir was a lonely kid, and she never quite fit in, just like Morgan, is what I'm trying to say. She wasn't typically violent. She wasn't known as a troublemaker. Instead, she had spent a lot of time online, also in creepypasta communities, fanfiction forums, and horror storytelling places. Slenderman Stories provides something she didn't really have offline, a sense of community, a sense of belonging, a mythology to disappear into. But Anissa struggled to distinguish online fiction from reality too, especially when she found someone like Morgan, who insisted Slenderman was real. Anissa wasn't hallucinating like Morgan, but she was deeply impressionable. She believed Morgan. She feared disappointing her. She feared Slenderman. And in her mind, obeying this fictional entity became a twisted moral duty. Many experts later described Anissa as someone seeking purpose. And unfortunately, she found that sense of purpose inside a horror myth that should have stayed fiction. And of course, we have the victim of this case. I shouldn't even say victim. She's a survivor, amazing survivor at that. Peyton Lettner. She was also known to her friends as Bella, from what I'm hearing online, but for the sake of this case, I'm going to call her Peyton because most of the research that I was doing called her Peyton. She was the kind of kid who wanted to make others feel included. She befriended Morgan when others didn't, and that friendship actually started as a duo. So it was Peyton and Morgan from when they were little kids. And Anissa came on later. From a young age, Morgan was not getting along with many other kids. So that really just shows Peyton's true colors, right? Just making everyone feel accepted and wanted. And she grew to be patient with Morgan's quirks, even as her behavior grew stranger. She didn't know the depth of Morgan and Anissa's obsession with Slenderman. She didn't know that they truly believed he was real, or that they thought that harming her would earn them his protection. She thought this was just a normal sleepover, just a walk to the park, and just a game. Instead, she became the target of a planned attack she had no idea was coming. Peyton's survival is one of the most astounding parts of this case. Despite suffering multiple stab wounds, including one just a smidge from a fatal artery, she crawled through the woods, dripping blood, fighting to stay alive, until she reached help. Her resilience doesn't just define her story, it redefines the entire case. She lived, she healed, and she ultimately testified with a strength that shocked the courtroom. The plan after the sleepover, according to investigators, was already decided by Morgan and Anissa. They had been discussing this for months, planning, revising, fantasizing about appeasing Slenderman. But again, Peyton had no idea. To her, it was just a fun time with her best friends that she trusted. That's one of the most saddest parts about this case, in my personal opinion, is just like the amount of trust that you put into these people that you love, like they're your best friends, and they could just betray you like that in the most horrific way. Is just devastating. This next morning comes around, so it's now May 31st. Things seem routine, right? The girls eat their breakfast. It said that they had donuts for breakfast because it was Morgan's birthday. So they were having their donuts. They got dressed, and they decided to go outside and play. At some point, the three of them head towards David's Park, a small wooded area nearby, a place kids played all the time, a place that wouldn't raise suspicion. Police reports and court transcripts say that girls told Peyton that they wanted to play a game, something like hide and seek. Totally innocent on the surface. But in Morgan and Anissa's mind, this wasn't a game. This was the moment. This was the day that they believed they needed to kill Peyton to become proxies for Slenderman. And to prove their loyalty, so that they could live in his mansion in the woods, which is a whole other lore to this story. But it is said that if you become Slenderman's proxies, and that is by turning on another children, you have to sacrifice another child to Slenderman. You get to live in his mansion in the woods, and supposedly he lives in these woods in Wisconsin. Well, I'll kind of touch on this a little bit later with like my own personal story. Nothing like this, but my own personal story with just urban legends and like the way that they take form into localized regions. Yeah, they believed that Slenderman lived in this random forest in Wisconsin, and that his mansion that they could live in once they sacrificed their friend, they could go there. So at around 9 or 10 a.m., they led Peyton deeper into the wooded area of the park. At one point, they tried to attack her in a bathroom, but they lost their nerve. That's from police interviews. So they regroup. They walk, they talk, and they try again later. Eventually, the three ended up on a paved path and into the more secluded path of the woods and thick foliage. The perfect place the girls believed to carry out what they thought was a mission. And then it happens. Morgan Geyser, holding a 5-inch kitchen knife, turns on Peyton. Anissa later admitted that she told Morgan to go ballistic, and those were the words that she used. Morgan stabbed Peyton 19 times. The wounds were all over her body, her arms, her legs, her torso. Several of them were shallow, but 2 were life-threatening. One wound pierced Peyton's diaphragm, slicing into her liver and stomach. It was so close. If it had plunged a little bit deeper, just by like a hair's, she would have bled out in minutes.